What if burnout isn't something that suddenly happens, but something that has been quietly building for years? In this episode, I sit down with emotional intelligence expert, researcher, and author Dr. Lorea Martinez to discuss why so many high performing women don't recognize burnout until they're already running on empty. We explore emotional intelligence, resilience, stress, purpose, and how learning to understand your emotions may be one of the most important leadership skills you'll ever develop. Are you ready? Let's dive in. Welcome to Career Growth for Working Women. If you're feeling tired in a way rest alone won't fix, or successful on paper but unsure what's next, you're not broken. You're not alone. I'm Shannon, a promotion and compensation coach, and this space is about helping women grow their careers with clarity, confidence, and sustainability, not pressure or hustle. Take a breath, settle in, and let's talk about what's really going on beneath the surface. Hello and welcome to the show. My guest today is Dr. Lorea Martinez, and I think that this conversation is one that many high achieving women need right now. Because here's the thing, most burnout doesn't happen overnight. It often builds slowly through years of carrying responsibility, pushing through exhaustion, ignoring stress signals, and convincing ourselves we'll slow down later. Dr. Lorea has spent more than 2 decades studying human development, emotional intelligence, and well being. She is the founder of Heart and Mind, a research based model that helps individuals and organizations strengthen emotional awareness, resilience, and healthier ways of working and leading. Through her work as an educator, researcher, and author, she helps people better understand the emotional patterns that influence how they should show up at work, manage stress, and navigate the pressures of modern life. Today, we're going to talk about burnout, emotional intelligence, and why so many capable women don't recognize they're running on empty until they already are exhausted. Dr. Larry, welcome. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you for having me, Shannon.
So, you speak a lot and write about burnout from both professional and a personal perspective. What first made you interested in understanding burnout more deeply?
Well, it was because of my own experience with burnout. So I had been in the field of emotional intelligence for a long time. And I thought because I was doing the work that I loved, I found my passion, my calling. I thought that I couldn't burn out. Well, that was not the case. After, so many years working in the same field, I went through a very difficult period where I had mostly lost the joy that I felt for the work, and things that before used to be pleasant and exciting, even doing the actual work and coaching and providing professional development, that didn't feel as fulfilling as I had felt in the past. And there was a point where, and I tell this story in my latest book, when I realized that I had burnout, and I was walking with a colleague, and he was helping me think through some things about my business and how to do maybe like a new line of work. And in the middle of the conversation, I just started bawling. I started crying. I felt so overwhelmed and hopeless. I had a lot of anxiety about even putting something else on my plate. And that's when I realized there's something wrong here. I'm not paying attention to something that has been there all along. As you were mentioning, it's not something that one day happens, it builds over time. And that for me was kind of that crisis point that helps you like stop and realize, hey, there's something here. And from there I started doing more research around burnout and using some of the tools that I had already developed in my practice with emotional intelligence. And this latest book has been the almost like my healing tool. Truly, what I write in the book is how I help myself go through burnout by having a better understanding of what it is, but also taking a slightly different approach to the sense of purpose as well.
Yeah. Well, I think I love your story because I feel like that there's so many listeners that are listening, these women that are probably nearing burnout, but they think, "Oh no, I'm still functioning."
Yeah.
So, I mean, how do you go from like, okay, I'm functioning on early burnout, but you stop it before you get to that point, like you said, where you had that breakdown in the middle of this conversation? You're like, whoa, wait, I can't do it. So, what advice would you give to those women that are like, oh, I've got it all under control, but really we know that they don't?
Well, what's interesting is that high achievers can be burnout, even if from the outside you don't see anything. You can be going through the motions of your work and your life, and from the outside to seem that everything is fine, but inside you are not feeling the same. And one of those signals that we often miss is this joy. Like if you generally enjoy your job, is something that has been meaningful to you, but that stops happening, that's a signal. And for women, what we tend to do is to plow forward because that's what
Yeah.
works. We have been taught and we have learned that it has been reinforced that that's the way to be productive and effective in the org market, right?
Hmm.
So that's one thing. The other aspect is if you start noticing that things that are small become big issues, right? In that conversation with my colleague, it was just a brainstorming session. I was not signing a contract with
Right.
anybody, right? But
Right.
it felt like I couldn't do it. I couldn't see past my own emotions in that moment. But even then, the thought of like, oh, I have to do more, and I'm already like my tank is empty. So if you start noticing things that were small before that are small but they feel really big to you, that's also a signal. And the third one is if you have a good night's sleep, you are resting, and you are taking care of all the things that you have to in order to be healthy, but rest is not rejuvenating, if rest is
Right.
not giving you the energy that you need, that's another signal that, hey, there's something here that is happening.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Because I think as women too, we think that we, like you said, we are bulldozers. We just keep going and plow, and we think, hey, we're dependable. We're the ones that everybody relies on. If we don't do it, no, who's going to do it? And then it leads to just complete and utter exhaustion.
Yes, and there are many ways, many small ways in which we compromise our well-being. And if you take stock of what those are, the listeners, I'm sure you can identify, oh, I know for myself, exercise is really important. That's a way that I keep my mind healthy, is to move my body. And if I start compromising that by saying, oh, I'm too busy, I don't have time for going for a walk this morning, or go to my yoga class, that's something that accumulates over time. So
Right.
paying attention to almost like what are your non-negotiables to
Hmm.
take care of your own physical and mental health. And you, if you started compromising those, that's also a signal, hey, I may be going in that direction too much and I need to renegotiate those boundaries either with my workplace, with my family, with my social relationships. So there's a part around
Hmm.
claiming the space for you as a human being to do what makes you feel well and be well in your life.
Yes, I know for me, I had to at first start just putting little it in my calendar because I've always made that promise to myself that if it's in my calendar, I'll do it. So I had to schedule 15-minute walk here or 45-minute lunch break because you would think that would be like, well, duh, you're going to take a lunch break. No, not all the time, you know? And so I had to put it in my calendar with reminders so that I would actually do it. And now, obviously I for the most part do that, but like even something like that, like you said, like these are non-negotiables, and putting that into my week already so that it's already built, then everything else goes around those. So I really
Yes,
like that.
because and finding those little tricks, right, that
Mhm.
make us not compromise those non-negotiables, like putting it on the calendar or making sure that you are telling your family or your colleagues, hey, maybe you block a time on your calendar for doing deep work without any distractions.
Yes. Yes.
And if you tell your colleagues, hey, I'm going to be doing this work, this is really important, please don't come into my office or whatever that is,
Right.
just to save that time so you can do productive work. And it is just really hard to fight against all these distractions because of our digital world.
Yes.
As you were saying about lunch, I'm thinking, for a long time, I used to eat my lunch reading the news because that was the only time during the day when I felt like, oh, I'm sitting down, right? I'm eating my lunch, I'm going to read the news. But that meant that my brain didn't have a break. So if you are
Right.
coming from, 3 or 4 hours of work and then finally you have a little break, give your brain a break,
Give
right?
the
It's
brain a
not only
break.
about eating your lunch, but it's also about how you are stopping that stimulus so you feel a little more refreshed by the
For
time
sure.
you go back to your work after lunch.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, what would you say? I know burnout isn't just like a lot of people I feel like have that belief that burnout is just like working too much, but it's actually deeper than that. How would you explain that?
Yeah, so burnout is having a sense of exhaustion, and that can be emotional, it can be physical, it can be psychological, it can be all of them. And as you mentioned, often we assume that if you feel overextended and busy, that's the only way to get burnout, but that's actually not the case. We have when I was writing the book, I was doing research and I talked to people who were not stimulated enough in their roles. That meant that they were working below their capacity. And I know that's one topic that you touch on this podcast quite a
Yeah.
bit of what
Yeah.
happens when you are not
Yeah.
stimulated and maybe you are using 60% of your potential. That can also be a cause of burnout because you are not you are not being stimulated and engage in a way that is going to be up to the skill level that you have. So there are different scenarios in which you can burn out, but I think that at the core of all is really aligning what you are doing on a daily basis with a sense of purpose, like really doing work that is meaningful to you and that you have been intentional in creating that meaningful work. And that can mean different things for different people, but taking that time to ask the question, is this really meaningful to me? Am I doing the work that I want to be doing? That's very important, especially because
Mhm.
burnout actually gives you an opportunity to reconsider that. That's an opportunity that I took when I realized, hey, I'm feeling burnout. What is my
Yeah.
path forward? And that can be a beautiful moment to say, okay, maybe there are some things that I want to change.
Yeah, I love that. I love trying that mindset of changing that to a positive, like, okay, well, now what do I get a reset in a little bit of way. So okay, we talked a little bit, very little about emotional intelligence. How does that in play into burnout and for all of these high achieving women?
Yeah, so I see emotional intelligence as the tool that you have in order to not only heal from burnout, but also avoid that you get to the point of, having a meltdown or truly a big crisis. And what emotional intelligence does as you learn and practice these skills is to help you be more in tune or at tune with your emotions. So you are noticing what is life for you, right? What happens during the day on a every any normal day, how you experience it, and be able to go through the process of noticing your emotions, processing them, and seeing, okay, what are they trying to tell me? Because emotions are data, they are information, and
Mhm.
there are signals that are there for us to pay attention. What happens is because we live busy lives, we have many obligations, we don't take any time to pay attention. So we plow through our emotions, and the challenge there is that then they show up in unexpected
In
ways.
unexpected places,
Yes,
right?
and with unexpected people, right? So
Yes, exactly.
that gets us into trouble because we accumulate, right? And
Right.
maybe you had a small frustration at work, but if you don't process that, that can become anger when you get home with your own children or with your significant others. So going through that process of understanding your emotions, name them, and taking time to process them is very healthy. And it's a way where you are not holding on to feelings for a long time, but really helping yourself go through the moves and understanding what they are trying to tell you.
I love that because I feel like that in itself is a great place for someone who may not be already taking account of their emotions to stop and they can say, all right, what do I need to do? I need to stop today. And what are the emotions I'm feeling? What does it mean? And process. And then that way that they can start getting in tune with themselves, their emotions and all of that. So I love that. That's a very practical advice for them to do.
Yes, and when people do this, one is very liberating because, okay, kind of like raise your hand if you ruminate, right? Or you go over and over in your head about what happened during the day. Maybe someone made you upset and you are getting upset again because you are thinking about the situation over and over. So what happens when you go through that process is that you are not holding on to those emotions as much. And also it improves relationships because you can get better also at identifying emotions in others, so you can be more proactive in how you relate or avoiding conflict or working through the everyday, little things that
Absolutely.
life brings to us.
Yeah, I was going to say that's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, this is going to help you be a better leader and
Mm-hmm.
help in your career, like, because you're going to be a better team player.
Yes, better team player and also having more understanding of how are people motivated and what are the emotions that drive people behavior. And that's at the core of being a good leader, when you are able to either anticipate if you are trying to do something new and there's going to be resistance, how you can deal with that, how you can bring people on board with you. It is truly a set of skills that no AI is going to be able to help you with that, right? that's
Right.
that's the human aspect, and
Yeah.
it's beautiful that we get to do that in community and in relationship with others, because
Mhm.
there's not going to be a substitute for being a good leader based on your emotional intelligence.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, if my listeners want to get in touch with you, connect with you, follow your work, what's the best place for them to connect with you?
Yes, they can go to my website. It's loreamartinez.com, and they can learn more about my work, grab a copy of the my latest book, Living with the Heart in Mind, and also I have a free self-assessment. So for those who want to get kind of like a snapshot of where they are in their lives, they can take that and they'll get an email with results and kind of like a roadmap for how to move forward.
Awesome. So, as we wrap up today, I love to leave the listeners with a small action step or a mindset shift that they can make today. So, what's a small step that one of the women listening to can make this week that you would challenge them to do today?
Yeah, so I would tell them, if you're noticing that you're missing joy, small things become big, or the rest is not working, just take a moment to pause. It's okay to pause. It doesn't mean you are failing, and just dig a little bit deeper and ask what's happening for me.
Yeah.
What am I feeling? And that might be a way for them to find some insights and some answers.
Oh, awesome. I love that. Well, thank you so much for being here with us today.
You're very welcome. It was a pleasure.
If today's episode sparked something for you, a question, an idea, or a realization, don't ignore it. I offer promotion strategy calls where we walk through your current role, your goals, and how to position you for your next promotion or raise without burning out or overworking. You can book that call using the link in the description. And if this episode helped you, sharing it or leaving a quick review makes a bigger difference than you know. Until next time, keep sharing your value clearly. You've earned it.